Thank you, Art, for having the opportunity to being over here. I think it's not going to be that much of a trouble that I'm going to speak. Is it better like this? Perfect. So once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to being over here and give the speech at this conference. Well, everybody's speaking Spanish, so I hope it's not going to be that much of a trouble, right?
That's right.
I'm going to speak in English. Well, if you have a trouble, then just ask a question. And that's I'm going to translate it. That's just good. Okay, so the main topic of this urban seminar is supposed to be city and water and the interaction between the city and the water, right? What I saw at this seminar so far, like during the week, we pretty much saw the professors or the planners talking about the urban water as a biological issue, as the let's say a psychological issue, or the conceptual issue, right? Should I put it over here? A little bit more. Well, let's put it over there. Oh, perfect. Okay. So the topic that I'm going to be focused on today is more or less the element of water from the position of energy issues and the energy potential. Because this is something that is many times forgotten in any kind of plannings that we are doing, and basically that's the problem that we are facing later. Yesterday there was a presentation about floods and tsunami, right? And the issue that we have over here is that the water element that we are trying to deal with within the city or basically within the country has many times forgotten forgets the essence of the energy. We are talking about the nice curves that you can get with the water, the interactions, the way you can literally talk to the water. But you many times forgotten that there is an energy within the water that is untapped or tapped, right? And basically that's something that should be actually implemented in any kind of urban planning, because sooner or later it might happen, and what might happen will happen. Just to go briefly through the presentation, I'm going to present pretty much the PhD topic I'm working on, and the first bullet that you can see over here is the importance of the water element in urban structures, and I'm going to introduce the project to you. So this is this kind of a bilateral agreement between Slovakia and the university I'm working on in Taiwan. And I'm going to be, of course, I'm going to be talking about the comparison study because this is the second bullet. And I'm going to be talking about the comparison study of Taiwan and Slovakia from the hydro energy potential viewpoint. One mistake, I guess. If it comes to energy distribution model, which is a kind of a model that we proposed in this project of the importance of the water element, I'm going to show you the proposal, how it works, and what we are planning to do with this project, because this is still a theoretical level. I mean, the project is still in the theoretical level, so I'm just going to tell you the proposal. And then the fourth one, I'm going to just briefly go through the forms and functions, how you can use the water in the micro-urban structures from the energy potential. Right? And at the end, I would like to show you some case studies from the Slovak Republic or Taiwan that are already installed in the micro-urban areas and how they can actually interact with the urban area. So let's go to the project. As I mentioned, the topic was working with the water element in the small urban structures from the energy point of view and how you can use it in the small urban structures. So if I'll go to the project interest, the most important part is the first bullet, which is sustainability of the growing city. And what we are trying to do in this project is that we're focusing on the growing city, and in many times when you have this kind of growing city problems, you're totally forgetting the part that even the big cities or even the big growing macro-urban structure once used to be a micro-urban structure, or as a chain of the small micro-urban structures. So you're many times dealing with the project within the city itself, but trying to solve the issue by some kind of a mega energy source. Imagine any kind of a large-scale power plant. Like we are talking about the water, so imagine a huge scale power plant. And many times you have this kind of composition issue where you have a city and there is a quite huge hydropower plant on the top, right? So these kind of centralized sources, and that's why we are trying to solve this energy and lack of energy in the cities. And if I'll have to compare, for example, Taiwan or over here in Mexico City, you have also like these kind of energy shortages, because the bigger the city is, the more power sources you need. The other issue is the urban distribution. Once you have this quite big power source, how are you going to distribute? Of course, the people that are living closest to the source, they are quite happy, right? Because you have energy all the time, right? But how about the remote areas, suburbs, or the people that are literally living on the outskirts of the city, right? You also have to somehow, well, support them with the energy, you know, to get the standard life that we have. And another issue is the renewable energy sources, which is a common issue spoken last decades actually. And the issue is how are you going to use it in the urban area, or what does it mean for the urban area? Well, the renewable energy sources, which are like widely applied in the macro urban structures, they are of course helping, right? But the point is, what would you do if you use renewable energy sources in the micro urban structures all around the macro urban structures? Which means every city has some kind of let's say a pattern around, right? The villages that are sooner or later become a part of the city, right? Because the city is growing, so it literally consumes all the villages, and there is a sort of first, second, and tertiary circle. And this is pretty much what we are talking about in the case of renewable energy sources. How we can apply the methodology, or how we can apply the renewable energy sources in the micro-urban structure, so that micro-urban structure can help later to the city when it becomes integrated. If I'll go to a simple division of the projects, we have of course practical and theoretical part. The theoretical part is more like urban architecture related, and that's pretty much the implementation in the real conditions. And we are talking over there about the distributed generation, which is quite a common topic. We are creating energy on the site when it is needed. You have all of these small cases. I'm pretty much sure that you guys saw it. You have the wind turbines or the small-scale hydro energy sources. And then another one is a proposed urban project. It's called Energy Efficiency Power Grid Circle. I'm going to talk about it later. And well, pretty much those are the institutions that are involved from the side of Slovakia and also from the side of Taiwan. And the first two are the universities that we're cooperating with. So let's go to the comparison study from the hydro energy potential. Voila, that's Taiwan, right? And on your left you can see the hydro energy potential of Taiwan currently under the research. And what you see over there are the already installed units, which are the blue one, right? So quite lots of them. And but as a matter of fact, there are only 48 that are actually working. The rest are just areas that are under the consideration.
How many working?
48 are working. The other ones are areas of consideration, and those are also the white squares that probably you're not seeing over there, but they are all around the place. And those are the areas that are just indicated that there could be a power plant. So you can see the potential of Taiwan is quite huge. As a matter of fact, we are using the hydro energy potential in Taiwan for 21.6%. Right? If you compare that thing to any kind of Asian countries, where's the laser? Because I can't really use the mouse over here. Okay. Sure. Okay. You can see the Japan, that is pretty much the most evolved one, 61%. Then you have a China, of course, that, China is a special issue because currently you have the biggest hydropower plant in the world, like what's the English name? Three Gorges, right? But the point is, they are literally creating this kind of huge hydro energy potential by literally crossing the valleys and creating the big ponds. Right? So the original micro hydro systems, they are available, and there's lots of them available in China, still untapped, right? Especially decentralized sources. I would like to go back to Japan because that's a quite common issue. Taiwan and Japan, if you know the history, they pretty much conquer each other. And, I mean, it's more like Japan conquer Taiwan and Taiwan conquer Japan, of course. But then pretty much all the hydro energy systems that are in Taiwan are coming from the Japanese history. They were built by Japanese builders, Japanese civil engineers, architects. And as a matter of fact, most of them are still working. So we are talking about a 100 years period. So you can imagine if you invest into any kind of a hydro energy power plant, this is pretty much the lifespan you get. You're probably dead, but the power plant is still working, right? So that's quite an interesting investment, whether it's in the macro scale or micro scale. According to the table that we have over there, if it comes to Taiwan, we have 21.6% of the hydro energy potential, but that's pretty much 4.7% of the overall production and the energy production that is in Taiwan. And don't get me wrong, Taiwan is one of the biggest consumers of the energy in the world. Then I'll go to another countries which are like Philippines, also small country, Myanmar or South Korea. You can pretty much see the numbers. But I'll go back to Japan again. This is again the island country. So what they are trying to do is to get as much as possible renewable energy sources they have in the island or within the island. That's why they're trying to use it at 61%. I'll jump to briefly to Slovakia just to give you the differences. If you look at the European Union, you have Italy, which has 95%, right? So pretty much the hydro energy potential in Italy is quite replenished. Right? Go back to Taiwan. Another issue that you see on the right is the precipitation map, and that's what pretty much makes Taiwan one of the greatest hydro energy. One of the greatest hydro energy potential power predisposition. You have 1,250 millimeters to 2,500 millimeters per year, compared to Mexico as a 750 millimeters. Around the Mexico City, there's like 750 millimeters. Of course, even in Mexico, you have 2,500 millimeters, but even only in certain areas. I think it's a southern area, more southern areas. The upper areas, the northern areas are more like 750. Okay, then let's go back to Slovakia, and well, if you see the hydro energy potential of Slovakia, you pretty much see the blue points. The blue points are all the proposed hydro power plants. The black points are all the existing power plants, and the red one, they're supposed to be commissioned in 2010, but well, you can consider them as a blue points because we didn't really finish all of them, but we are trying actually. You see the precipitation map, and you see something like Mexico actually. So you see where we are. We're quite small countries. There's 750 millimeters, and of course in the northern region we have something like Taiwan, but it's impossible to use a hydropower plant in a national park. I mean, it is possible, just that you need to be very highly situated person to use that thing. Anyway, the hydro energy potential in Slovakia is used on a 56.4%. And over here I would like to stop for a while. If you go through the European Union regulations or charts, you can see 70.6%. Why this happens is after 1987, we implemented so-called EHEP, which is like ecological hydro energy potential, which basically means we simply crossed some of the possible hydropower plants that you saw on the map on the top, and that's logically, you have a higher number. This was made only because we were trying to get the integration into the European Union. This issue is discussed many times between the hydrologists in Slovakia and even in Europe. So, which number you like, that one you want to work. Usually we're working with 56.4 because there is still a lot of untapped hydro energy potential in Slovakia. And well, it pretty much makes 13 to 20% of the energy production. Why this is happening? I mean, you saw that Taiwan was like 4.7, but that's a stable percentage. Well, the problem over here in Slovakia is that all of the river, or most of the river, or pretty much all of the river, they are starting in Slovakia. They have a start. As you can, if you see the schemes of the rivers, right? As you can see, I mean, for example, the eastern part, you see really the beginning of the river. I mean, the riverbed. There are maybe some small lakes or like some places where water just stop and then just continue. Compared to the southern western scheme, which is pretty much the only biggest river that we have. The river that we can actually use for ships. Actually, we're talking about the river ships, and the point why this scheme looked like on the southwest as it looked like is because that area is agricultural and that's a lowland. So of course you have some kind of a delta. And another issue that is over there is the water tree forest, which is a protected area, so we cannot really touch this place over there. And that's why you see the river literally scattering through the country. Compared to Taiwan, for example, if I go back to the hydro scheme, you see pretty much that the rivers are starting and ending at the same time, right? So you have one of the greatest potential because the river starts over here, then it goes really steeply down, so you get perfect heat conditions, and then you have a delta, right? Anyway, let's just go through the capacities. PS, like pumped storage, hydropower plants. We have 4 in Slovakia. Well, they pretty much have 2, but if you look at the potential, and the installed capacity in Taiwan is of course higher, right? However, the generation is of course lower in Slovakia. We don't really use the pumped storage hydropower plants for a simple reason, because there is quite enough energy. There's no need to use them in the normal energy process. We use them for the emergency scenarios, because that's what the pumped storage is about, right? It's the point of pumping the energy up and just waiting for the possibility to be used. Then you have the conventional hydro, and this is something that I would like to be focused on. If it comes to the number of units, you see Taiwan has 40.6 of 40s are the hydropower plants that are owned by Taipower, which is a national company, and 6 of them are the IPPs project, which is individual power producers. That means they are owned by some private companies. At the beginning I said there are 48 power plants. The rest of the power plants I didn't calculate because those power plants are usually connected with the companies or factories. So we don't really put them in this kind of research, because they are they are really small. That's the first thing, and the second thing is that you pretty much not affecting anyhow the whole number of the generation. It will be probably one number up or down. So, but there are also another power plants. Even another one that I'm just familiar about, but I never saw them. So there are maybe more of them, like 50, but we never actually use them in this research. And if you go to Slovakia, you see there are like 31 power plants that are owned by the national company or energy company, which is kind of a tragic issue. I'm going to explain it later. And the rest are the privately owned companies, right? So you have 227 power plants, and most of them, the 189s, are micro power plants or small power plants. So you see the difference. All of the power plants that you see in Taiwan, all these 46 power plants, they are quite big systems, except maybe 2 that I'm going to show you later. In Slovakia, the small systems prevails. Right? So this is more like decentralized energy. I want to talk about the Slovakian hydro energy systems. What basically happens is that we used to own all the power plants, then we sort of sold it to Italian guys, the Enel company, which was not really a smooth move, but well, that's what happened. So basically, all of the hydropower plants that are state-owned, or the big power plants, are owned by the Italian companies, which right now we quite have an issue with that. And at the end, I mean, on the bottom, if you look at the little statistics, and that's pretty much the reason why I'm doing this research, is that you see Taiwan and you see the population differences. So any kind of energy changes you're going to do, you have well, a perfect prognosis possibility. What would happen in Taiwan if you, well, have 5 million of people? What would happen in Taiwan if you use more decentralized energy, like we do in Slovakia, and vice versa, right? What would happen in Slovakia if you have 22 million of people and the hydro energy potential that you have? So that's the prognosis study. And then you see the densities and the areas. Areas are pretty much the same. Many people are arguing, why am I doing this kind of research? Because the difference is 1.35. You see, they're pretty much the same. And if it comes to consumables, Taiwan is pretty much over 99%, Slovakia is at 90%. The problems in Slovakia is most of the consumables coming from Russia. You guys pretty much seeing the news, we kind of have an issue over here right now. So, yeah, the transition fees are flying away. Anyway, what basically affects all this hydro energy and basically the energy are the purchase prices. Right? You won't build a hydropower plant as an individual in Taiwan because simply the energy that you're going to produce is not going to be sold efficiently, right? So your project that you're going to build will probably pay within 20 years back. In Slovakia, well, the bigger small hydropower plants, which is up to 10 megawatts, are paid back within 10 years. The smaller one are paid back within 5 years. So you see the difference. That's why there are so many, well, IPP projects in Slovakia. And then, of course, you can see the purchase prices, the Slovakian purchase prices. I mean, if you have the power plant is up to 1 kilowatt, well, included also like the 100 kilowatts, you have for 0.1 euro per the kilowatt hour that you produce, right? Which is exactly over 100 euros per megawatt hour. So you're paying back the power plant within 5 years, sometimes sooner, if you're using the European Union funds, because this is a green energy. European Union, of course, supports these kind of projects. Anyway, let's move to pumped storages in Taiwan and Slovakia. As I mentioned, there are only 2 in Taiwan, and there are 4 of them in Slovakia. So well, this is the left, right? On the left side, you see the Dagwan or Mitang. Right, you see the installed capacities, which are pretty much 1/3 of the Dagwan, using 4 or up to 6 units. All of them are using Francis reversible turbines, which is quite common turbine used in pump storages. And this is a system of a power plants called the Sun Moon Lake that I'm going to be showing in the next slide. And if it comes to Slovakia, the most famous one is the Geneva, which is the first one. It uses 6 Francis turbine and 1 Kaplan turbine. How these things work? The 6th one are the Francis turbines, which are logically the reversible systems that pump the water up on the reservoir that you can see, okay, perfect over here, right? And this is the downstream reservoir, which uses the single Kaplan turbine as a normal power producer. It's a conventional power plant, so it's a combination. This issue, the Geneva issue, is a very famous one because we built it in a, well, natural protected area. This, the water pond that you see over here, the above one, it used to be a hill. We sort of cut it, put the water over there, and that's how it worked, right? Yeah. The problem is you see the High Tatra region, which is a national protected area. Many people taking picture over there, and suddenly you have like a deep hole with the water. But as a matter of fact, the whole system is so interesting. There are many European Union countries that are actually coming and see these projects, and as a matter of fact, there are also some similar projects around the world. The installed capacity is 750 megawatts, which is not really closing even to Taiwan, but that's what we have in Slovakia. So you can see the energy potential over there. Well, then another one is Ružín, Dobšina, Liptovská Mara. Logically, the Liptovská Mara has two Kaplan turbines and two Darius turbines. Darius turbines are reversible old Francis system turbines, just to make you clear this point over there, so you don't get mixed up. It's an old Francis turbine. This is the Sun Moon Lake system in Taiwan. This is how the Sun Moon Lake looked like from bird's eye view. It's an area full of hotels. It's a recreation area. There's lots of tourists. Like 1,000 Chinese, they're coming over there and seeing the place. Right now it's a kind of issue. The ecology is kind of an issue because there's lots of ships that are going through, and pretty much the people can observe the area by taking a boat. And the system looks like this. This is the Sun Moon Lake over here, right? And over here you have the cascade of the power plants. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 power plants over there. 2 of them are pumped storage systems, right, which is the mentioned Dagwan and Mintang. Right? And over here you have a Wushu Dam, which has the Wanda power plant. That's a 100% Japanese power plant that was built in Japan. This is a new unit. This is the old unit over here. This is the Jugong, which is the power plant that is over here, and that was also built by a Japanese. And the whole this cascade is based on a Japanese projects. The Jugong, which is the downstream power plant over here, that's this one, is built by the Japanese. Then the Dagwan, which is I was talking about the pumped storage Dagwan. This is a conventional power plant, and that was also built by the Japanese. So you have a combination of pumped storage and the conventional power plant. And then another one is the Shirley, which is a really small power plant that works just like a backup source for the Mitang power plant. And well, I'll just go really fast through the pumped storage system. What you basically have is an intake from a Sun Moon Lake and the upper basin, right? And you have a water bridge to cross the valleys. Then the balancing shaft, the powerhouse, lower basin, and then you have a control room. So that's how pretty much the power system works. If it comes to pumped storage, you have a higher pond and the lower pond. You just pump the system through. And then you have the balancing shaft that pretty much ensures the pressure on a turbine, because the pressure on a turbine is supposed to be sustained. It's supposed to be all the time the same. You cannot just have a fluctuation in a flow. Okay, this is the Geneva, which is the one in Slovakia. You see how it works. Pretty much the pipes are over here, and this is the upper basin. This is the lower basin. It's located in the middle of Slovakia, a little bit on the north. So you see all this area is a protected area. It's a national park, actually. Well, that's pretty much it. Just to get you the picture of how it looked like. And then I'll go to Ximen, which is another type of a reservoir combining hydropower plant in Taiwan. And this is quite a sad issue. It was built after the Japanese occupation, and it's supposed to serve as a water reserve for drinking water, the irrigation channels, and of course the hydropower plant. Right? After the first typhoon, they realized that the life of a dam goes from 80 to 40 years. And why this happens is because of a silt. Right? You understand it's a silt, right? There's like sand on the top of the basin. So there has to be a quite great underground project that was solving these silting issues. We can a unique desilting system with just several pipes that you can see over here. You have a pipes over here, into several levels, and literally suck the silt from the dam and then put it over here, right, after the dam. You can see the intake, and that's pretty much the house. And why it is a sad example? Because this is how it looked like in 2014. This is how it looked like now. just because it's not raining. And this is a quite great issue right now in Taiwan, because if you know the capital, right, Taipei, and then you have a new Taipei city, and a new Taipei city is whole supplied by this reservoir. So you can imagine what's happening if, something around 2 million of people doesn't have a drinking water, or the water that you cannot use for taking shower or something. Well, you see the numbers where I took the picture. This is something in June, and this is a March. Right? So it's totally on the bottom. Actually, you can walk. It's like the Moses, you can go like this. Yeah, exactly. It is a big issue currently. It is a big issue. The problem is it's raining all around the place, not over here. And what is a really sad example is that you have two of these reservoirs. One is a Sui reservoir, which is above the Taipei, and one is this reservoir. And there is no connection between them. The problem is Sui is supplying Taipei city, and this one is supplying the new Taipei city. And there is the only thing you have to do is connect these two systems in the city, and then you have no problems, right? But apparently, they want to conserve the water in the Sui, and they don't want to use this one and that one, together. By the way, there is a different, political party in the Taipei city and a political party in the new Taipei city, so it might be a problem. I know. I never said that thing. I know there's a cameras over here, so don't publish this thing. Okay, anyway, this is another example, and that's why I would like to show you the example. The fact that I would like to show you the example is that it is another cascade system that is in Taiwan. It's when you look at it, it's somewhere over here. It's called the Dajiaxi system, Dajia River, and there are several power plants in Cascade. This is the second power plant. It is built inside the mountains. So imagine some kind of a tunnel that you see over here. The problem over here is that it used to be, the moment they built it, it was somewhere in the 70s, I believe, 1970 and 1970 when they commissioned. When they built it, it was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, conventional power plant around the world. Right? So what happens over here is a very simple detail issue. The access point to this power plant for cars or people was too low. So what happens is this area has a really steep riverbed, and there are lots of landslides. So what happens is that there was a quite huge landslide, and the whole water actually goes up. So basically, the whole power plant that you see over here, for one of the biggest hydropower plant turbines, get flooded. So all the system that you see over here is rebuilt as a new one, because it's called the retrofitting of the generator set. And you can pretty much see how they're building it. So they had to put away all the concretes, put away all the old turbines, close the original failure problem, and then create another which is a little bit higher. So I hope there's not going to be even bigger landslide, go again. But doesn't matter. The point is they're retrofitting the system. And why I'm showing you this example is that when you're building any kind of huge hydro energy project like this, you really have to pay attention to details like the access points for the cars. Might be a problem actually. This is the biggest power plant we have in Slovakia. It's kind of run-of-river system and reservoir, and it's also it's not a sad example. It's actually a really good example. Because if you remember, I showed you the biggest river that we have, the Dunaj River. This is called the Gabčíkovo, which is the water work. It has several stages. This is one of the biggest stages, called the Gabčíkovo. And basically there are ships that can go through, and there are, I believe there are 8 Bob-type Kaplan turbines. And the problem is, the original project was counting with the Nagymaros level, which is the Hungarian level, right? The Hungarian level was never built. So what happens is that if we want to use our turbines on a full throttle, sooner or later you will get a phone call from Hungary saying, "I'm sorry, we are under the water," because because of the obvious issue. The second stage is supposed to be a balancing basin, supposed to balance these kind of fluctuations. Well, never been built, so we cannot use it on 100%. And this is also the problem with the Italian companies, because they're supposed to take care about the turbines, but they said it's not in the contracts. Issue over here. It's about turbines. We are talking about the turbines that are big like this area over here. Right? So, the maintenance fees is quite high. Okay, and let's go to a really small hydropower plants that we have in Slovakia and in Taiwan, and this is my favorite topic. You can see the Geneva power plant, which is 950 kilowatts, and then there's Pequeñas, which is 800 kilowatts. You see them like this. This is the Geneva one, and this is the both of them are using semi-Kaplan turbines. This is kind of classical propeller that you see, and both of them are quite modern because they're using the. I have a mouse. Don't worry. I have a mouse. I'm using the other way. But you can see, right? Yeah, I think it's okay. And they are using a plastic dam or inflatable. We call it inflatable dams, which are well, if you're doing any kind of small hydropower plant project, these dams are quite good because if there is a really huge amount of water or volume of the water, it'll just go down. Water comes through, go up. You can generate again. Right? Whether you have a fixed concrete dam, we have many problems in Slovakia. This concrete dam will a little bit flushed away, so it is kind of an issue. If it comes to Taiwan, there's a Ranchao power plant, which is the one that I'm going to be talking a little bit more on the next slide. What basically happens, you have an irrigation channel, then you have the supply channel power plant. This is how the power plant looks like, and the outflow, right? This is a Ranchao and the Holy South Shelley or Holy Mini power plants. They are using the Osberger turbine, which is the cross-flow system, and one of each other is like literally a copy of each other. So they copy, which is like typical Asian example of copying the power plant systems. Why do I like the Ranchao system? Is that this is the place of the power plant over here, and this is the basin before the power plant. And this is the focus. Let's go over here. This is how the whole area look like. The area is called Judong. And what basically happens is that you have a dam that takes the water from the river. It's distributed into the irrigation channels around the place, and then also into the power plant. Again, there was an original Japanese hydropower plant. They sort of destroyed after the period. And then they rebuilt it. So Ranchao is a totally new unit. It was commissioned in 92. And why am I showing you this example is because Judong, before the power plant was built, was a simple village. There was nothing. There were people actually, living over there and digging nothing. You see people just gardening or something, and suddenly you have a perfect agricultural area surrounded by the channels all around and supplies the area. Then you have the original line, which is over here, the original line that supplies the original hydropower plant made by Japanese, and right now it is used by. Right now it is used as a fish pond. Okay. Then I'll go really fast. These are the power plants from the Japanese period, right? And basically, what you see on the bottom, this is the power plant that is using the drinking water, which is quite famous, and you can use the drinking water as well for the generating hydropower plant. These are the projects that you can see in Slovakia and Taiwan. Pretty much these are the Taiwanese projects which are using the irrigation channel water. This is the project I'm working in, which is the MUMT, which is a micro-urban multi-purpose turbine. And originally I want to show you the designs, but we didn't have a time for that one. These are the generations. 10 minutes? Okay. These are the generations that we are working in. Currently we are in generation 1, and the rest of the generations are in the research. Right. So far, we did a feasibility test, and what we had is that we used 0.9 megapascals for the air and 0.3 megapascals for the water. What is important is as a multi-purpose turbine, which means you can use the water, you can use the gas. And then I'll go to energy efficiency power grid circles. So very quickly, you see the differences between the city like Shinju and the city of Bratislava, which is the capital of Slovakia. You see there are pretty much the same residents over there. And I would like to show you the differences between the urban structures over there. In Shinju, it's one mass of urban planning issue, one mass of the urban structure. In Slovakia, we still have one big city and then the small villages around the place, and that's why we came with the AAPG, which is the power efficiency power grid circles that are coming from the industrial scheme, where the city was pretty much supported by the villages around, by let's say the gas, or let's say the coal was the power, right? But the post-industrial scheme works pretty much like this. You have a central source and then supports all the things. And the EEPG combines both these schemes. So you're still calculating with the middle point, but you also work within the primary, secondary, tertiary circle. There are actually villages that are pretty much supplying the city. Where I was looking at the beginning, we are focusing on the renewable energy sources within. I'm not going to go through this part. It's pretty much the exchange of the energy between the city and the village. And again, you can have several stages. So basically, you can have a partially indirect module, which is village supplies the village, that supplies the city, or you can have an indirect model, which is energy interaction between two microurban structures, and the direct module, which is a village to the city. This is just the picture of how we design the renewable energy sources, how we can scatter them around the place and apply them. Which we can start with the biofuels, ending with the wind and with the hydro energy, which is the thing that I focus on. This is the example of it, how you can actually apply it. And then the forms of the river, forms of the water. Well. You pretty much knows all the systems. I'll just stop in the retention basins. This is right now an issue in Slovakia. There are two ways how you can prevent the flood. One is that you just hire the riverbanks. Another one is you go to the mountains and you build these kind of things, right? Which we have it in Taiwan, we have it in Slovakia. I'm pretty sure we have it over here in Mexico as well. The thing is, they could be made by a community. You don't need a building company for that thing. This is how you can apply this kind of these forms and functions. You can apply it into a Slovakian village and the Taiwanese village. You can see, like, for example, the ponds for shrimps and fish. They're quite popular in Taiwan. The rice fields, of course, and the irrigation channels. This is what happens in Slovakia, in R.O.C, which is a small village, if you don't have unregulated riverbeds. So that's why we are so focused on regulating the riverbeds. And this is pretty much the application, how we can change it. I'll just mention the runoff river irrigation channel hydropower plant. This is how it could look like. It's from the company Hydrologic. And just the examples very quickly. This is a hydropower plant in Taiwan that I didn't mention at the beginning, and that's why I'm not putting it into the whole generation number. It's a very small power plant. We're talking about 0.9 kilowatts, and it basically supplies the ecological pond that the guy over here has. He's an agricultural guy, so he just built the ecological pond and illuminates it with it as a fish over there. So it works for him. He saves 300 euros per month, so it's good for him, right? This is pretty much the same project, just the difference. Guy is not the agricultural guy. He owns a restaurant. He needs to power up the fridges, right? Because in Taiwan, you have 32 degrees or 40 degrees. It's really important to have a fridge, right? 884 euros per month. And this is my favorite one. This is the energy positive farm. So the guy creates more energy than he can consume. And what we actually do is, like, we have a 6 kilowatt turbine, we have a drinking water, we have a shower. I mean, we're hitting the shower. Then you have the electricity, like for the basic lightings, and we still need a fish pond to, get rid of the rest of the electricity that we create. The capacity is 2 to 30 people, which is quite huge, actually. And in Slovakia, this is pretty much the same example from Slovakia. They rebuild the old water mill. This is inside the mountain area to supply the shallot. So the oil cottage, which is like also energy zero cottage, and this is the last one, which is also the energy zero cottage. Well, thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions or comments.